9 spine-chilling babysitting tales, terrifying secrets revealed, unexplained horror exposed. Samantha tugged her backpack higher on her shoulder and took a deep breath as she approached the quaint, two-story house in the picturesque neighborhood. The sunlight bathed the perfectly manicured lawns, and the smell of barbecues hovered in the warm air. But something felt off, like a shadow lurking just beyond the sunbeams. She felt the twist of anticipation in her stomach. Here she was, a desperate college student taking on a babysitting job in a place that felt like a postcard, yet it felt like the start of a horror movie. Upon entering, the parents eyed her with a nervous glint. They assured her everything was fine, but their voices trembled, like the wind whispering secrets through the trees. The twins, a silent duo clad in matching pajamas, barely acknowledged her, their porcelain faces literally staring out past her, their wide eyes darting toward a locked door at the end of the dim hallway. An involuntary chill skittered down Samantha's spine. As dusk morphed into night, the atmosphere thickened. The twins whispered timidly about the man who roamed the street. Their voices were barely a whisper, but each word held a weight that pressed upon her senses. Disappearances, the words clung to her ears, a sinister echo she couldn't shake off. Was it just childish imagination? She brushed it off and made her way to the living room, planning to settle in. She thought of her bills, looming like dark clouds over her. Needing fresh air, she hesitantly stepped outside. The moment she did, her heart sank. Her car, her only way out, sat there with slashed tires, the windshield marred with strange, cryptic messages. Panic swelled in her chest, and she felt the warm summer air morph into an icy grip around her. Was this a sick joke, or was she now in the middle of something far darker? The joyous sounds of the neighborhood became twisted, almost mocking in their cheerfulness as the clock ticked toward midnight. There was no escape now. Just as she was about to venture back inside, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was the parents. Panic flattened their voices, urging her to leave immediately. Fear clawed at her throat, and confusion sent her heart racing. Then, abruptly, the line went dead. Desperate, adrenaline coursing through her, she turned to face the darkened house. Silence swallowed her in an eerie embrace. Maybe she could wait this out. But then laughter, soft, innocent, sinister, bubbled through the hall. It was the twins, their giggles echoing strangely. Was it the same joyful sound that had once filled the room? Now, it tasted bitter like ashes. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. With fear tightening in her chest, she bolted down the street, shadows swelling and warping behind her. Every step felt clouded in darkness, each shadow a lurking presence watching her, amplifying the whispers of the twins in her mind. The man they spoke of became an urgent reality, one she couldn't ignore any longer. In that moment, she sensed a familiar presence, the truth dawning like a hammer striking her in the gut. A masked predator, hidden in plain sight. Now, with darkness wrapping around her, her mind raced. The suburban paradise turned corrupt labyrinth, and she was trapped in a nightmare disguised as safety. Could she outsmart the monster who cradled trust but reveled in treachery? Racing toward a terror-stricken confrontation, the unsettling question loomed: who would emerge victorious, her or the shadow lurking just beyond sight? Samantha stumbled forward, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears. As the shadows closed in around her, she could feel their breath, cold and damp, curling at her back. The laughter of the twins echoed in her mind, taunting her as she sprinted toward the nearest neighbor's house. Hope flickered dimly, as fragile as the lights illuminating a distant porch. "Help!" she shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. But the streets were silent. It was as if the whole world had hit mute. The comforting hum of suburban life had been replaced by a suffocating dread. Every step felt heavier than the last, her sneakers pounding against the pavement growing more laborious as panic gripped her. Then, a rustle behind her. She spun around, eyes wide. There, lurking just at the edge of the shadows, was a figure. Its features lost to the darkness, it stood perfectly still, watching her. A chill coursed through her veins, freezing her in place. It was him. The man of the twins' whispers. Without a second thought, she turned and ran again, her breath coming in sharp gasps. She darted toward the familiar beacon of the streetlight, the flickering circle of light promising safety. But just as she reached it, she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind her, heavy and deliberate. Those footsteps quickened, and she knew. He was gaining on her. Adrenaline burst through her like a bolt of lightning, propelling her forward. She sprinted toward the twins' house, the only place she could think of, desperate for the safety of walls that felt more like a cage now. Samantha flung open the door. Her heart raced as she slammed it shut, her hands trembling against the lock. The house was eerily quiet. She glanced back at the darkened hallway, the shadows waiting like wolves ready to pounce. "Twins!" she called out, her voice trembling. No answer. The silence mocked her, wrapping around her like a shroud. She felt sick. What if they were in trouble? Gathering her courage, she stepped into the dim hallway, heart racing. Every step felt weighted with dread, the air heavy from the lurking darkness. "Where are you?" she called softly, hoping her voice wouldn't wake some slumbering horror. A small whisper floated through the air, sweet and vile. "We're here, Miss Samantha." It was the twins, but the tone felt off, wrong in ways she couldn't articulate. She followed the sound to the locked door at the end of the hall. Every fiber of her being told her to turn back, to run away from whatever was hiding behind that door. But curiosity and terror wrestled for control. "What's behind there?" she whispered, the question escaping her lips like a defiant challenge. "Come find out." The twins' voices echoed like a siren's song, luring her in. Heart pounding, she reached for the door handle. Just then, a crash echoed from the living room. A loud bang shook the house, pulling her focus. The footsteps outside were no longer quiet. They were there, thudding, menacing, right at the front door. Samantha could feel her pulse in her throat, a wild rhythm drowning out the silence that had engulfed the house. She stood frozen, torn between the certainty of danger outside and the eerie whispering drawing her in. The door rattled under the weight of something terrible. Could she open the door and confront whatever awaited inside, or face the malevolent force on the other side? Time felt suspended as she weighed her choices, the air thick with impending doom. Suddenly, the door creaked open, revealing nothing but darkness. "What are you waiting for, Sam?" came the twins' whisper again, just behind her. As she turned, dread washed over her and all she could think was, "What have I done?" The darkness behind the door seemed to swallow the faint light from the hallway, amplifying her fear. Samantha felt as if she were standing on the edge of a precipice, one step away from the abyss. The whispers melted into silence, the twins' presence becoming a heavy weight on her chest. Turn around, she thought. It was a battle cry against the very instinct that urged her toward danger. But the pull of the twins' whisper was magnetic. How could she abandon them? How could she turn her back on children who had always been so full of life? Just one look, what's the worst that could happen? She whispered to herself, the dark thoughts spiraling deeper. Samantha's hand trembled as it met the cold metal of the doorknob. She twisted it slowly, dread washing over her. The door opened with a low creak that echoed ominously in the silence of the house. Blinking against the lack of light, she stepped inside, heart racing. The room was empty, save for a worn armchair in the corner and scattered toys on the floor, odd remnants of childhood against a growing sense of foreboding. An oppressive stillness crept in, wrapping around her like a thick fog. "Sam?" The tremor in her voice bounced back against the walls. Where were the twins? Suddenly, the air turned frigid. She could see her breath, a ghostly mist that contrasted sharply with the warmth of her fear. A sound followed, a soft clattering, as if something had shifted in the dark. "Help!" A muffled cry stretched from beyond the room, strained and desperate. Samantha's heart plummeted. That voice was unmistakable. It was Mia. It was as if she had forgotten everything but that one recognition, a collision of dread and hope. She turned on her heel, bolting from the room and back into the hallway, the shadows swirling around her like hungry wolves. Panic surged. The front door had been a barrier, but now she felt exposed. Every step was heavy, she could feel eyes on her. She raced toward the living room, where the sound had come from. Each breath was labored, her legs feeling heavier with every stride. As she burst into the living room, Samantha froze. The television flickered on, illuminating the dark corners in an eerie glow. The screen showed static, jagged and distorted, and she could see something moving within it, something she couldn't quite make out. "Sam! Help!" The voice again, but this time muffled by the noise of the static. It was coming from the television. Her heart sank further. She stepped closer, her reflection joining the chaos in the screen. The static buzz heightened. Shadows danced behind the glass, twisting and warping. Without thinking, she reached out toward the screen, drawn in like a moth to a flame. "Don't!" The scream cut through the air like a knife. Samantha whirled around, her breath catching in her throat. There stood the twins, ghostly pale, fear etched across their faces. "You shouldn't have come in here," they cried in unison, their small hands trembling. The laughter that once echoed through her mind twisted into 1,000 shrieks of warning. Behind her, the room began to shift. She felt a pull, reality bending and warping. "What is happening?" she gasped, her vision blurring as she stumbled backward. Mia's voice cried out again, desperate. The television screen flickered and erupted with light. "Get back!" The twins screamed, their horror snapping her out of the trance. In a split second, Samantha turned and ran, her gut feeling that the only way to save them all was to escape. But how far would the darkness chase her? As she burst through the front door, she spotted the silhouette of the man waiting at the end of the street. Just standing there, unmoving. The world outside felt just as suffocating. It was a trap. With terror coursing through her veins, all she could think was, how do I get us all out of this alive? Samantha skidded to a halt on the cracked pavement, a damp chill clawing at her skin. The man stood motionless, his form illuminated by the pale streetlight, features obscured in shadow. He felt wrong, an emptiness about him, bending the air around him. "Where are the twins?" she gasped, her voice trembling. But he made no move to answer. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, like a predator considering its prey. The hairs on the back of her neck prickled as alarm bells rang in her mind. She could turn and run, but she had already felt the darkness behind her, smothering, lurking. The twins were still inside, their screams echoing like gunshots in her head. She took a cautious step backward, her instincts screaming at her to run. "Help me!" Mia's voice echoed again, frantic, inside her mind. It was a call to arms, and despite the man's looming presence, she was propelled back toward the house, propelled by hope and dread. As she stumbled through the front door, she felt warmth engulf her. It was deceptive. The house felt alive, breathing with a darkness that pulsated in tandem with her frantic heartbeat. "Mia!" she yelled. The house swallowed her voice, leaving only a hollow echo in response. A sudden noise broke through the silence, a distant thump followed by the sound of something dragging across the floor. Her heart raced. She inched further into the darkened living room, an internal battle raging. Was it a trap? The house felt like a maze now, a cruel labyrinth. "Keep moving," she told herself, pushing back against the fear that wrapped around her throat like a vice. She turned toward the source of the dragging sound, dread pulling her forward. As she moved, the wallpaper seemed to pulse slightly, as if the house was alive. Shadows flickered in the corners, twisting as they tried to reach her. Samantha squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, hoping when she opened them again, things would be normal, that Mia would be safe, and the twins would be by her side. But instead, she saw the twins' room, its door ajar, a faint light pouring out. The dragging sound was louder now, clawing at her psyche. She took a breath, steeling herself for whatever lay beyond. "Sam! You have to hurry." Their voices, overlapping, each word laced with terror. She pushed the door open. Inside, the room was in disarray, furniture overturned, toys scattered like the remnants of a forgotten childhood. The twins were there, hovering in the corner, their bodies trembling in a strange, unnatural rhythm. "Get out!" they cried, pointing toward the closet. But Samantha couldn't move. She felt entranced by something strange inside it, an energy that pulsated in the dim light. The closet door creaked open of its own accord, revealing a void of thick, swirling blackness that seemed to breathe. It whispered her name. "Sam! Don't look!" The twins screamed again, their fear breaking through the haze that clouded her judgment. But she was drawn in, a moth to the flame. As she stepped closer, she could sense the darkness reaching out, promising her things she wanted to know, things she was desperate to understand. "Sam!" Mia cried again, her voice filled with pain. "Please! You're not safe." Suddenly, everything began to shake. The walls shuddered, and a low growl reverberated through the air, a sound that turned her stomach. She recoiled, heart racing. The man outside, the darkness in the closet, they were both closing in. What was it going to cost her to save them? As she backed away, the floor splintered beneath her feet, whole pieces crumbling away. Samantha looked back at the twins. "Find a way!" they shouted, their voices now drowning in the echoing growl. She was about to turn and run when the closet let out a final cry. "Sam!" And then, everything went dark. What had she just unleashed? And could she possibly retrieve the twins before it was too late? The silence was deafening, a heavy blanket smothering any remnants of noise or hope. Samantha floated in the darkness, suspended between reality and the unknown that swirled around her. Her heart thudded in her chest, a frantic drum summoning the urgency to escape. Sam, the voice, soft as a whisper, slithered from the void. It was Mia. "You have to wake up." The world slowly bled back into existence. Light pierced through the cracks of her unconsciousness, bright and stinging. She blinked, and suddenly she was lying on the floor of the twins' room, the closet door cracked open, an abyss gaping just beyond it. Her body felt heavy, as if the ground had seeped into her bones. The twins were gone. Panic surged through her veins. "Mia!" She screamed. The room remained still, but a faint rustling came from the closet, a soft, ominous sound that made her hair stand on end. Driven by fear, she scrambled to her feet, pushing aside broken toys and twisted furniture. She had to check the closet. Taking a deep breath, she inched toward it, a trepidation clawing at her throat. "Guys?" she called out, her voice trembling. The darkness seemed to fold in on itself, hungry and thick. Don't open it," a voice melded with the shadows. It was the twins, but it didn't sound like them. It was distorted, stretched thin as if they were trapped in another realm. "It's not what you think." But that malevolence called her, its essence not just an empty void. The sensation of eyes within the darkness prickled at her skin. Something was watching her, waiting. "Get out, Sam!" The twins' voices grew frantic, echoing inside her mind. "Please!" She wouldn't leave them. Couldn't. Not again. With a shuddering breath, she pulled the closet door open wider. The darkness puffed out like a living creature, wrapping around her legs. It smelled of damp earth and rotting wood, a graveyard of secrets and despair. Your only chance is to go. Mia's voice now softened to a mournful whisper. You'll lose us if you stay. But Samantha was no longer thinking clearly. Her hand reached into the blackness, prickling with energy, fingertips brushing against something not quite human. A cold breeze shot through her, freezing her core as she plunged deeper. Stop! A deep voice erupted from within the shadows. It slithered out like a serpent emerging from its lair. Stop now, or face what lies ahead. Samantha withdrew, heart pounding, every instinct screaming to obey the immediate threat. She backed away, hands quaking, but it was too late. The floor splintered again, and fragments began to disappear into the black. It felt like the room was collapsing around her. The twins' vulnerable faces flashed before her, illuminated with sheer terror. You must trust us, Sam. They screamed in unison. You have to fight it. Then, in a blink, the room shifted. The closet door slammed shut with a deafening bang. The furniture arranged itself as if woven with a spectral hand, creating a barrier. Confined, disoriented, Samantha felt the air thicken. Get out now. The shadow skated across the walls, an entity with no form yet all-consuming. It howled, filling the space with despair, pumping venomous dread into her mind. Samantha fell against the door, the reality of the twins' presence hitting her. This was about more than just escape. If she left, they would remain trapped. But if she faced what lingered, it might tear them all apart. Decision time, Sam. You have to choose. Mia shouted, the urgency clawing through the layers of shadow that threatened to choke her. What could she do? The darkness pressed closer, urging her to act, but breaking the spell required courage she feared she didn't possess. Would facing the horror unleash something worse? Or was it their only chance of survival? As a piercing scream erupted from the closet, Samantha teetered on the brink of her choice. Would she dive into the darkness to save her friends or flee and risk losing them forever? And in that moment, the shadows around her twisted, waiting for an answer. The shadows hissed, and that deep voice rumbled again, make your choice, child. Samantha's pulse quickened as she felt the walls closing in, each heartbeat echoing in the oppressive silence. It felt as if time was unspooling, the air growing thick and suffocating. I want to leave you. I can help. She cried out, but doubt gnawed at her like an insatiable predator. What could she do against a force framed by darkness and despair? The twins' frantic pleas intertwined with the voice's growl, creating a cacophony of terror that sunk deep into her bones. Trust us. Mia's voice cut through the haze, laced with desperation. We're stronger together. But the shadows warped around her, taunting. Foolish girl. You think you can save them? The darkness flickered with shapes, something lurking just beyond sight, waiting for the signal. Gritting her teeth, Samantha advanced toward the closet, each step feeling like a betrayal. The echoes of the twins' terrified screams jolted her resolve. Could she truly face what awaited her, or was she merely walking into her doom? With renewed determination, she gripped the closet door, peeling it open wider, its creaking revealing secrets best left buried. The nothingness surged forth, a cold tide washing over her legs, grasping at her with skeletal fingers. The voices of the twins cried as one, do not listen to it. But the shadows were seductive, whispering promises of power, of freedom from pain. All she had to do was surrender. Samantha hesitated, torn between the lure of darkness calling her name and the images of the twins, lies painted in fear etched across their faces. Deep within her, the instinct to fight began to stir. No, I want to let you have them. She screamed, thrusting her hands into the blackness, determined to confront whatever lurked within. Moments stretched like hours as chilling emptiness enveloped her. She felt cold, hollow. Then, a flicker of light burst to life, illuminating the corner of the closet. It was a shape, stark against the void, revealing twisted features, a face that should not exist. Samantha recoiled, terror freezing her in place. What are you? Your greatest fear, it hissed, its voice a chorus of the agony echoing through her mind. It prowled closer, the stench of decay pouring from it like an invisible cloud. Surrender. You alone cannot fight what you are. Mia's cries erupted louder in the chaos. Sam. Focus on us. You can't give in. But the dark figure continued its advance, reaching out with claw-like hands. It could smell her fear, relish it. Everything she ever feared wrapped around her soul now: abandonment, loss, darkness itself. The combination of emotions became a torrent within her, and she felt herself wavering on the edge of despair. Suddenly, a memory surfaced, one of laughter, followed by the twins' energetic smiles. A flicker of light against the consuming dark. It gave her strength. No. I won't lose you. With determination rising within like a flame, she pushed against the darkness, breathing deeply, recalling the whispered moments of innocence they had shared. Power surged through her, pushing back the shadows, but the figure only laughed. Your light is weak. You are just a child. Maybe, she countered, but I'm not afraid. But could she truly gather that defiance against the monster? Would it even be enough to break its hold? As her surroundings began to twist and crack, reality fractured all around her. Samantha felt the ground quaking under her feet. The figure screamed in agony as if stung by her light. Would she shatter the darkness, or would it consume her? The final moment awaited her decision. Was this the dawn of a new battle, or the onset of a complete unraveling? A blinding flash radiated from Samantha's hands, illuminating the dark figure momentarily. Its distorted features contorted in rage, revealing rotting teeth and hollow eyes that spoke of suffering. Just as quickly, the light fizzled, the shadows swirling hungrily around her, devouring the glimmer of hope. Your power is fleeting, it growled, its voice now a cacophony of echoing screams. You think you can banish me? You're nothing. Fear gripped Samantha, but the twins' voices pierced through the din. Remember who you are. Remember us. Their words ignited a flicker of resolve. I won't give in. She shouted defiantly. With each declaration, Samantha felt the memory of laughter and warmth fueling her insistence. She would not allow darkness to rewrite their story. The ground trembled violently, sending her stumbling to the side. Breathing ragged, she steadied herself against the wall, pressing her back against the cold, unyielding surface. The shadows writhed and twisted, taking shapes that seemed to crawl toward her. Shapes of her worst fears: her family lost, betrayal haunting her, each one murmuring deadly promises of what it meant to give up. Join us. Samantha embraced the void, they whispered seductively, pulling her closer to their malevolent embrace. The sensation sent a shudder through her, her body reacted instinctively, wanting to escape, to flee, but deep down, she knew that retreat wasn't an option. The twins were still trapped. Even from the edge of despair, she could sense their presence, a beacon of hope and friendship. I'll fight for you. She cried, summoning the last of her willpower. The dark figure's laughter filled the air like a vile storm. Fight? You think you stand a chance? It lunged, claws stretched, aiming for her heart. Samantha instinctively closed her eyes, whispering a silent prayer. At that moment, she felt warmth trickling behind the terror. It enveloped her, wrapping her in a cocoon of shimmering light fueled by disbelief and raw courage. A sound broke through the haze, the giggles of the twins, echoing like a melody in the depths of the dark. Together. We're stronger together. They sang, their voices resonating in a fierce harmony, blending with her defiance. With a sudden rush, she opened her eyes. The closet, once a cavern of horrors, began to shift. The dark figure recoiled, screeching as the light flared brighter, forcing the cold, skeletal fingers of shadow to skitter backward. Sparks flew in every direction, illuminating the dark corners of the room. Just when she thought she might gain the upper hand, the air crackled. Shadows surged back. You think this is over? This is just the beginning. The familiarity of its voice twisted her stomach in knots. It felt like an echo from her past, a haunting memory tethered to her deepest insecurities. Sam! Help us! A new sound broke through, a whisper carried on a cold breeze, pulling the twins' fading cries. They were getting weaker, slipping far deeper into the abyss. No! I want to let them go. She yelled. The figure swirled and darkened, claws striking out in furious desperation, trying to convey its malevolent presence. The energy amplifying around her felt volatile. Just then, a blinding beam shot from Samantha's hands again, and it illuminated the figure's visage clearly for the first time. The truth struck her hard. It was not just a monster. It mirrored her own dark thoughts, consuming her frailty, taunting her. You're afraid of what you are. It taunted, piercing her heart with those words. As the light grew, so did her courage. No. I'm more than my fears. She shouted, launching herself toward the figure, ready to fight not just for the twins, but for herself. And as she collided with the darkness, she felt a sudden jolt. The fabric of reality wobbled like a scene on the brink of breaking. Would Samantha's light be enough to confront this twisted vision of herself? Would it banish the darkness into oblivion, or would it swallow her whole? The fleeting shadows whispered one final warning: you don't know what you're facing. And with that, everything began to shatter around her, pieces of reality slipping away like sand through clenched fingers. In an instant, everything became a violent whirlwind. The light burst forth like a supernova, blinding yet jagged, bending reality itself. Samantha felt the weight of the darkness collide with her own essence, shattering the air with a sickening crack. As the shadows unfurled, tendrils slithered across her skin, ice-cold and electric with despair. They wrapped around her limbs, pulling her deeper into the tumult. Her heart raced, a drummer pounding in her ears, drowning out the desperate whispers of the twins. Fight, Sam! Don't let go. Their voices, once harmonious, were now frayed threads, barely holding on. Get away from me! She screamed, summoning every ounce of will, every vivid memory of laughter. With a sudden, fierce energy, she pushed back. The darkness recoiled momentarily, and within that flicker, she felt the ground beneath her give way. She was falling, cascading through an abyss that yawned wide like a chasm of despair. As she plummeted, flashes of memories swirled around her: her mother's warm embrace, the twins' infectious giggles, bright summer days. They enveloped her, lifting her even as shadows clawed at her edges, desperate to pull her under. "Simon, Sam." As if summoned by her thoughts, the twins appeared beside her, ethereal and radiant, their silhouettes glowing against the consuming dark. Together. Samantha felt their warmth flood her, a lifeline in the raw chaos. Their presence ignited a fire in her chest, a bond that no darkness could sever. They locked hands, forming a circle of defiance that flickered against the encroaching void. The dark figure surged forward, shapeless and menacing, its voice now a chilling echo that reverberated through her very being. "You cannot resist. You too shall become one with the shadows." "No!" Samantha shouted, tears of defiance streaming down her face, burning like acid as they fell. "I choose light over darkness." With that declaration, the air around them began to shimmer. A glowing shield surrounded the trio, pushing back against the claws that reached for them. Glistening streams of light shot outward like wild fireworks, breaking apart the encroaching night. Pulsing, they illuminated the vast abyss, revealing pitiful faces twisted in torment. A chorus of agony filled the air, and Samantha shuddered as the screams clawed at her sanity. She couldn't withstand this, not alone. "Hold on!" she yelled, feeling the gravity of despair weigh down upon them. But the twins' voices resonated loudly, more like a battle cry, filling her veins with strength. "Together, Sam! Together!" Gathering the flickers of light into her hands, she conjured a whip of luminosity, a fierce ribbon of hope forged from the memories they shared. "This ends now." She swung it with fury, the energy crackling and snapping as it bit into the figure, sending ripples of light through the darkness, but the enemy was relentless. It shrieked, a sound that clawed at the very walls of her mind. Vicious black tendrils surged, seeking to snatch the twins away. Samantha gritted her teeth, her heart racing as the light began to falter. Suddenly, everything stilled. The whispers faded. The shadows momentarily hushed. And she heard it, a voice deep and resonant, echoing from the recesses of her mind. "You think it's over? You've only just begun." The atmosphere thickened, and with it came a suffocating dread that enveloped her. Reality twisted further, a whirlwind that spun her senses in chaotic directions. What awaited on the other side of this confrontation? Where would the light lead her, salvation or deeper into the dark? Time stretched in the silence that followed, a moment caught between breaths where fear hung thick in the air. Samantha's heartbeat pulsed louder than ever, each thump echoing the desperate cries of the souls trapped in the dark. She squinted, trying to see through the haze of shadow and light, but nothing remained clear. Her focus wavered as clamoring thoughts invaded her mind, an unsettling chorus. "Stay with us," the twins urged, their hands squeezing her fingers tightly. With them by her side, she felt a flicker of warmth, a determination sparking to life. But the shadows loomed, threatening to extinguish that glimmer. She summoned the light within her, a brilliant surge of energy beckoning from the deepest corners of her spirit. Yet, every second felt like an eternity as the pressure of darkness pressed down on her shoulders. It was as if the weight of 1,000 souls, lost and miserable, clung to her, urging her to surrender. Suddenly, the dark figure lunged, a howling mass that twisted and warped, growing larger as it advanced. Samantha's grip on the twins tightened. "I want to let go," she shouted, resolute. The light around them pulsed stronger, but that wasn't enough. They needed more. "Remember us," the twins shouted, their voices intertwining in a melodious unity that threw back the darkness, if only briefly. Samantha thought back to the countless memories they had created together, the laughter and joy woven into the fabric of their lives. She pulled each one to the forefront, feeding it into the growing light. With every cherished moment, their shield brightened. The shadows shrieked, retaliating, but she pushed on. "We're not just memories," she whispered fiercely. "We're fighters." In that moment of clarity, the figure hesitated just for a heartbeat. It was a crack in its armor. Like a serpent sensing the slightest shift in its prey, it lashed out, attempting to ensnare them once more. "Now!" Samantha yelled. She swung her arm, her whip of light arcing, slicing through the darkness with a sound like shattering glass. Blinding radiance erupted, bathing everything in the glow of hope. The agonized faces around them momentarily dissolved into peaceful expressions as the shadows writhing at the edges shrieked angrily, thrashing at their exposed essence, but victory was fleeting. Suddenly, the darkness recoiled, then surged forward with renewed fury. It was as if the shadows were feeding off the light, becoming more powerful, swirling more violently. Samantha could sense their desperation. "Together!" she roared, drawing strength from the twins' unwavering presence. They surged ahead, locked in a sacred bond that rendered the dark figure momentarily vulnerable. They pressed on, the light forging a path through the dark chaos. Just as it seemed they might break through, an overwhelming dread enveloped them like icy fingers clutching their hearts. "Why are you doing this?" Samantha cried, her voice trembling. "What do you want?" A deep, guttural laugh rumbled from within the shadows, a sound that chilled her blood. "I seek what you fear most," it hissed. "Your desires, your loved ones, your very soul." The space around her twisted again, warping their identities, trying to tear her from the twins' side. She could feel herself unraveling, slipping between the fabric of their connection. Fear coiled tightly around her heart, paralyzing as memories morphed. Visions of her family distorted, laughter turned to screams. Panic rose. "Stay with me," she pleaded, fighting against their fading bond. But in that vulnerable moment, a flicker of doubt crept in. What if I lose them? Before she could ponder further, she felt a sharp, pulling sensation from the shadows, snatching at her essence. She was being yanked under, darkness clawing at her belly, dragging her down. Fight! The twins screamed, shimmering even more brightly as they struggled against the void trying to separate them. Fight to remember. But could she? Would she have the strength to resist? The shadows grinned wider, sensing her uncertainty, looming closer with triumphant intent. What awaited her at the brink? Would she find the twins' light or become consumed by the echoing abyss? The answer hung in the air, sweet like honey yet heavy with dread. And as she took in a desperate breath, darkness seeped into her lungs, filling her with cold fog. Time slipped away, and she realized she was losing herself. What would happen if she couldn't hold on? Would the twins fade into mere specters, lost to the shadows forever? In that final moment, she gripped their hands tighter, bracing for the unknown as the void beckoned. Don't let go. Would she have the strength to break free, or would the dark figure hold her captive, forever entangled in its malevolent grasp? Samantha stood at the precipice, shadows swirling around her like a tempest. Doubt threatened to unravel her resolve, yet the warmth of the twins' hands anchored her. She couldn't lose them, wouldn't she? They were her lifeline, her only hope in this suffocating abyss. Fight for us, Sam. Mia and Mia shouted together, their voices intertwining with an urgency that echoed through the dark. She felt the pulse of their light, an energy coursing through her veins, urging her forward. This was about more than just survival, it was about love, trust, and the fierce bond they shared. I won't let you down. She screamed into the chaos, forcing herself to confront the essence of the dark figure looming before her. Each of its taunts was a reflection of her fears, an embodiment of insecurities that whispered cruel truths about her worth. But she was stronger than that. She had to be. Light swelled within her, fueled by memories of laughter, warmth, and the twins' innocent joy. She envisioned their smiles genuine, radiant, unbreakable. The thoughts ignited a fire in her chest, turning uncertainty into fierce resolve. Samantha took a stepping forward, defiantly lifting her chin. With a roar, she swung her light, the brilliance exploding around them like fireworks in the dead of night. The shadows screeched, recoiling from the intensity as if stung. You're nothing without your darkness. She yelled, each word a challenge, a rallying cry. The twin spirits shimmered brighter, their laughter mixing with the light. Together they echoed again, their voices harmonizing with a melody that echoed through the chaos. The combined force surged, penetrating the fabric of shadows that had swallowed them whole, revealing glimmers of tranquility hidden beneath the surface of dread. Suddenly, cracks began to form in the dark figure's exterior. Fractures raced across its mass, light seeping through the fissures, revealing screams of anguish hidden beneath its guise. It was a grotesque sight, a blend of her darkest thoughts, and she felt a surge of pity. You don't have to do this, she whispered, the compassion in her soul spilling forth like a cascade. You can let go. But the darkness merely writhed, uncompromising. I thrive on despair, it growled, fury lacing its tone. Not anymore. Samantha screamed, shaking off the despair that clung to her. She summoned every ounce of love and hope, wielding it like a weapon. The energy thrummed in the air, igniting a vibrant, blinding light that spread through the room. Enough! Samantha cried, the words reverberating like thunder. With one final, courageous thrust, she propelled herself forward, flinging her radiant light at the heart of the darkness. In that moment, everything exploded, the light pierced through the murky void, shattering the shadows into a cascade of shimmering fragments. They screamed, a cacophony of anguish bursting into silence as the darkness evaporated. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by a warmth that washed over her, enveloping her in solace. As the aftermath settled, vibrant colors flooded the room, the remnants of the darkness dissolved, replaced by a golden glow. The twins' figures shimmered beside her, their expressions reflecting relief and joy. You did it, Sam! Mia exclaimed, vibrant and full of life. Breathless, Samantha took their hands once more, heart swelling with gratitude. The shadows had lost, and their bond held strong. They emerged together into a world painted with possibilities instead of fears, but even in the brightness, she knew the fight against darkness wasn't over. This battle made her stronger, more resilient. Outside the house, the world felt different, safe, yet alive with whispers of the past and laughter of childhood fading into the horizon. "Let us get out of here," she suggested, warmth embracing her heart. As the three exited, they stepped into crisp air, the night blanketed with sparkling stars. Freedom tugged at her, and she looked to the twins, their eyes glowing with hope. "Next time we meet darkness," she started, a grin breaking through, "we'll face it together." They laughed, the sound like music, bright and clear against the night sky. As they walked away from the house that had become a prison, Samantha felt the weight of her experience lift, her chest full of light. She knew now she'd carry this permanence within her. Leaving the darkness behind was not just a victory but the dawn of a newfound purpose, protecting those she loved, living fearlessly, and embracing the light. So here's the important part. If you enjoyed this finale, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait one more second to hit that button so you don't miss out on exclusive stories like this in the future. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and keep the lights on. And please, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how you think the twins and Samantha will face future darkness. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Together, let us keep this community strong.